Good morning, everyone. Yes, it's Thursday morning again. Before I forget, I'm sorry to do little business. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. That was the last thing my daughter said to me. You need to tell people to subscribe, Mum. And I said, well, I do, but I'm telling you now from first before I forget. If I forget, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Right. All right. Good morning, darlings. And so, we have with us today, of course, as always, my spirit guide, Gregel, who is standing to my right side. To my little bit further right, we have Cachorro. We're going to see if he can behave himself. We've had so many comments about the fact that I told him quiet and he obeyed me. We've had lots and lots of lovely comments. Thank you for those comments. And we've got a little bit of feedback going on in the background there. So we have Cachorro to my right here, and hopefully he's asleep, and hopefully he's going to stay asleep. And to my far right, say good morning, Carolyn.
Morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, Carolyn. And we also have Al from Colorado. Al, say good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
There you are. I think I have to, do I have to click on me or something? I can't remember.
Yes, click on you.
Oh, well, if only I could see that little, oh, there it is. I'm as blind as a bat here. There we go. And so how's your last few days gone, Al?
It's gone really well. I'm doing a lot of hiking and getting work done, so it's going well.
Hiking and getting work done. All right. Would you like to know what I did yesterday?
I would love to hear.
I know. What day is it today? It's not quite October yet, is it? We're still not into October, and Christmas seems so far away now. Can you guess what I did yesterday?
Well, I know, so I don't want to guess.
I made my Christmas cake. I know. Why would you make a Christmas cake? And it's not even October yet. Why would you make a Christmas cake when Christmas is weeks and weeks away? Well, I have to feed the thing every week until it gets so full of alcohol, and the fruit in the cake ferments and jiggles about and gets all beautifully jiggly and moist and delicious, and it's the best cake in the world. I know that when I talk about fruit cakes, I'm blathering here just a bit, but I know when I talk about fruit cakes, it can be quite funny because I hate to say this, and I don't mean to be rude to any Americans who might be listening, but really, you have the worst fruit cake in the world. It's got to be the worst, the most awful, the most dry. And in Italy, they also make a Christmas thing, which is also, it's quite delicious flavor, but it's just not to my taste in texture. Now, everybody has a special something for Christmas, don't they? We all have our parents or our grandparents who used to make different things for Christmas. And I don't know what's going on in the background there, but the iPad's not working. Carolyn's hiding in the corner there. And everybody has their own special thing that they make for Christmas. So in the lead up to Christmas, can you believe I'm doing the lead up to Christmas? In the lead up to Christmas, what I would really love from all of you is some idea of what, you know, your traditional Christmas fare is. Of course, there are many people out there who don't celebrate Christmas, so I'm happy to listen if you celebrate any of your Jewish holidays, Hindu holidays, all of those things that there are out there. All those special dishes that we savor and that we look forward to for our holidays. I would love to hear about those dishes. I would love to hear about those special things that you do and the special things that you make in the lead up to Christmas. And some of the recipes I just might try out myself. If we have a really good winner, as my grandson, 5-year-old, we have a winner, he will say. If we have a winner, then I shall make the dish and share the recipe with everybody. I think that sounds like a good plan. What do you think, Al?
I think it's a great plan.
Well, you're a cook too, so we could, between us, we could try it out, couldn't we?
We could. Yes.
We could, you know, we could have a go at these different dishes and see what we think, and you know, and maybe even we could even do a little video in Rosemary's Kitchen if we get some good stuff. Remember, it's not just your favorite dish that I'm asking about. It's a thing that is made, something that is made, you know, especially for Christmas, or especially for your religious holidays, that you always bring out on the day, on that special day, like Thanksgiving in America is turkey, and you know, so in England we have, we always on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas, we have the Christmas cake, we have the Christmas pudding. I have a recipe for Christmas pudding that I've used for years and years and years and years. I don't know where I first got it from, but of course I've doctored it up. This has become my own. But it is the most delicious, delicious tasting thing. And it only takes a few minutes to cook. How can that be, you say? So I want to hear all about your special, special, special things that you do for Christmas. All right. So having said that, Al, do we have any questions, any comments? Anybody saying
we do have a question. We do have a question, and just a quick comment on cooking, especially around the holidays. I think it's a really neat exercise that sort of centers you and connects you to your ancestors and your family. It's always been like that. Having an Italian heritage, it's always been like that. Everybody coming together, and the energy of it is great. So I think it's a really wonderful exercise for people to kind of concentrate and focus on some special recipe that they can share.
Yeah, I mean, our Christmas cake, of course, I'm early with my Christmas cake. If I'm not early with it, I'm usually not going to get it done, because as we lead up to Christmas, you know, so many other things get in the way. But we like to make our Christmas cakes at least 6 weeks beforehand, at least. And I think, I don't know how many weeks it is to Christmas, but it's got to be 8 or 10 weeks or something like that. And it's, even as I speak, it's beginning to ferment just a little bit. I made it last night. I left it to cool overnight. I disrobed it. In other words, I took all the parchment paper and all of that stuff off of it. And this morning at 9 o'clock, I was very tempted to start drinking, because the brandy didn't smell good, especially when it combined with the fruit in the cake. Oh gosh, it did smell really, really delicious. So some of the things that take ages to make, and some of them we can make, you know, in a heartbeat. And if anybody would like, as we're leading up to Christmas, if anybody would like my Christmas pudding recipe, please let me know.
Just go ahead and give the email, because we've already got requests for both.
Really? No, I've changed my mind. Buy the cookbook, which will hopefully be out by Christmas also. Okay, email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. I don't know if Dean is listening, but I want to know, Dean, if you tried, number one, if you tried the liver pate. The risotto is also new on YouTube if you want to take a look at that. I can't remember what else. We have a few things.
The apricot pork, right?
Oh, yeah, pork with apricots, yes. So delicious. I've not made it for years and years and years, and it was just as good as I remembered it. I'm not a great partaker of pork, although I do like my bacon. But you don't have to use pork. You can use chicken, you can use turkey, you can use ham, you can use anything you like, really. But anyway, that was good too. So yes, that's also on YouTube. I'm promoting Rosemary's Kitchen here. I don't mean to promote Rosemary's Kitchen, but I'm excited because I love Christmas. And I really am looking forward to all of your recipes. If you want my recipes and you can't wait for the book, because you really, if you want a Christmas cake now, you have to make it now, or within the next 2 weeks anyway. Email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, and we shall certainly send you the recipe. And you can also see on YouTube, although the Christmas cake I think is 3 or 4 videos long, but they're only fairly short videos, but they instruct you into how to make it. So as we send you the recipe, you can also follow along with me and watch and do the stages as I do them. Don't do what Dean did, and which is totally my fault. When you make the marzipan, which is I'm going to make next week actually, when you make the marzipan, used blanched almonds, in other words, almonds that have been skinned, because I'm sure it tasted great, Dean, but you used almonds. When you showed me the picture, it was, I thought, why does it look that dark? Because, and then I realized that I'd forgotten to say buy blanched almonds. Actually, you can buy almond bits, almond anything, because you're going to crush them up anyway. So enough of the cooking thing, enough of all of that. Let's get to what we really hear about today. Al, give me a question.
So we have a question from Albertine.
Good morning, Albertine.
She says, hello, Rosemary. Padre Pio helped many people during his life. He is now dead. Can he still help people out of the spirit world?
He's been gone a long time, actually, yes. Can he still help people? You know, I had a patient many, many years ago, Angie. I've talked about Angie before. Angie had a dreadful, very, very rare lung disease, very rare lung disease. She's still alive and kicking today, which is at least 25 years on. We gave her healing every week. She was given less than a couple of years, I think. I can't remember exactly now how many, but a couple of years to live. And she was a big Padre Pio fan. She had his photos. She had all of his sayings. She, you know, and she really felt if she prayed to Padre Pio, and also since he died as well, that if she prayed to Padre Pio, then her prayers would be answered. And she put great stock in him, and she had great faith in him and great faith in all that he represented. So Albertine, I'm going to say that if you have faith in someone like Padre Pio, it's going to work. It's going to give you something. Of course it is, because Padre Pio, as with many great healers, it's all part of the same process, isn't it? It's all part of that universal God force. So of course, I think it's going to help. Yes. Carolyn.
Little comment from Dean. He said he's seen all of your cooking videos, but my house is still up in the air and I have no plumbing or water, so no cooking except for basics.
Oh, no.
Totally well.
Well, actually, let me tell you that the pork with apricots, you don't need water because it doesn't require any, and except to the dishes afterwards, of course. And the basics, if you want a very basic, quick, easy meal, right, Carolyn? Mm-hmm. It is the quickest and it's the easiest, I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry you don't have any. I hope it's going to be right for Christmas, Dean. I hope you're going to be able to make your marzipan at some point for Christmas.
Roxana has a question.
Yes, Roxana, good morning.
Do our beloved departed celebrate Christmas like us?
You know, I've had many people in the spirit world who have told their loved ones, hang a star on the tree for me. Some say hang a silver star. Some say hang a bell on the Christmas tree for me. But I've had many kids who will say to their parents, if you hang a star for us on the Christmas tree, a special star for us, that will remind you that we are there with you and celebrating with you. So I think the answer to your question is absolutely yes. They do celebrate with us. They do celebrate whatever it is we're celebrating. They celebrate with us, and in those moments when we feel they're lost the most. I've also had people, as again, I'm coming back to the kids especially, but I've had people say, when you wake up on Christmas morning, if you look into the far corner of the room and you look carefully, you'll see me there. And it's their way of saying, on Christmas morning, I will be there with you just as I always used to be. So yes, they do celebrate. Al, let's have another question.
Okay, so Margreta asks.
Good morning, Margreta.
Hi, Rosemary. As I try to be positive, my sleep is interrupted 3 a.m., 3:30 repeatedly and consecutively. We talked about this too. People having trouble sleeping the other day, Rosemary too. She says it's
we
difficult.
did in our Attitude is Everything show. We did, didn't we?
Yeah. She says it's difficult to go back to sleep and I can't really remember what I may have been dreaming and help. And someone else also, I think Roxana mentioned something about being able to sleep after she woke up at 3 a.m. as well.
Well, we're going to certainly be in our online classes, which we're getting so close now. You have no idea how close it is. Before I'm going to be surprising you and saying we're on. If you want to join our classes, email us now, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, because we're very, very close to doing that. But we did talk about meditating, and I did in our Everything is Attitude. I don't think it was last week. It might have been. Was it last week? Yes, it was last week. We talked about candle meditation. And so there are lots of, and you can get tapes, you can get CDs. Al, you like the sounds of the ocean, don't you? Like that sort of thing. So
Yes.
there are lots of aids to help you sleep. Now, this is going to sound, I don't know why this popped into my head, but this is going to sound really weird, because years and years ago, I used to have trouble sleeping. Now I just stay up. I mean, I don't go to bed much before 4 in the morning some nights, and I'm up at 7 or 8 in the next morning. So so I only have maybe 2 or 3 hours sleep, and it seems I'm one of those people who don't need sleep. But years ago, when I had trouble sleeping, I used to eat lettuce sandwiches. You don't have to have the bread. All you have to do is eat the lettuce. Now, there's a weird thing. You can get this in any good health food shop. What you're looking for really is the lettuce milk. And if you get the lettuce that, you know, the lettuce that has those big, thick stalks to it, those lovely crunchy, what are they called? Cos lettuce or something like that, with a nice stalk. If you break the stalk, you'll see this like a white substance that comes out, and it's milk. We call it lettuce milk. Whatever there is in that lettuce milk is a calming and a relaxant, and they do use it very often in natural medicines, and they do use it as a sleep aid. I used to find that if I just ate some lettuce stalks, or lettuce sandwiches are good, I like them anyway, that would help me and aid me to sleeping. There are lots and lots and lots of weird and wonderful things that you can do, but meditation is really a good one. We have our meditation tapes. I have 4 of them actually. That certainly help you to sleep. Or you can do candle meditation. If you look at last week's Everything is Attitude show, you'll see there's little brief details of how you go about doing that, which should help you. Can you think of anything else, Al?
Just from the physical stuff too, like make sure you're not on your iPad, your screen right before you go to bed, stuff like that, because there's a lot of research that'll keep you up, and you don't get even watching TV before bed hurts. So stuff like that really gets in the way of quality sleep.
Well,
as well.
I know you're right, because I play word games and have some really good word games, and I go to bed. They're all in there because I'm a wordy person. I like words. I love words, actually. But I'll go to bed and I'll close my eyes and I'll be making up words out of nothing at all, or I'll be, devising different word games. So yeah, just make sure that before you go to bed that you're nice and relaxed. You're either watching a TV show, one of those mindless shows where you don't have to think about it. You could just, hang out, or you just put on a comedy or something. Don't put anything too heavy on. But I think if you're really suffering with insomnia, and it's serious, I really think that meditation will certainly help you. There are lots and lots of meditation CDs that are out there. You can go on your iPod or whatever it is, and just find beautiful, relaxing music, and you just need to allow yourself to flow into it, and let empty your mind, and let the music take you where it wants to take you.
Rosemary, when would you suggest meditating? Because Roxana said she meditates after she wakes up in the middle of the night.
I'm going to say I think that the very best time to meditate, because so many people that so many people think they're meditating, but actually they're contemplating. Again, we talked about this. We won't go too much into that. If you want to know more about it, go to our Everything is Attitude from last Friday, which the date, I can't remember what the date was, but anyway. So, you know, and your sister was on, Al, wasn't she? We were talking about this. But I think that first thing in the morning, for all of you who say, I can't meditate, I said to Christina, make an appointment with yourself, and that appointment needs to be at least 10 to 15 minutes long. Don't plan anything else. And if you say you can't find that time, get up earlier in the morning. I think morning is the best time, because, you know, if you do it properly, you do it correctly, you're not into the bustle of the day yet. You're not having other family members interrupting you. You're not, it's the quiet time of the day. It's the, you know, definitely the quiet time of the day. Or you can do it sort of at night time. Just remember though, please, please, please remember, if you're going to do it at night, but I tell my students always, have a timer next to you. Do not meditate for any more than 10 to 15 minutes initially, until you sort of really know what you're doing with this. It protects you. It makes sure that you don't get drifting off into something that you don't want to go drifting off into. I always advise my students to put, you know, when they first start to meditate, put on a little timer. You can get a kitchen timer, or you can, if you've got Alexa in the house, you can tell Alexa to, hey, you know, tell me when it's time. Lots and lots of ways that you can put your alarm on, and it'll wake you up. Make sure that it brings you out of that meditation. No more than 10 to 15 minutes. Al, do you have a question?
Not yet.
Carolyn?
Do you see any?
Yeah, Carolyn's good to go.
Sam asks,
good morning, Sam.
does washing your walls with salt water really clean your house with bad spirits? And how do you know if you have one? I think she meant from bad spirits.
Yeah. I've never heard that before. That is a new one to me. If you think it works, then I suppose it could work. I've never heard it before. I mean, you know, salt water is only, what is it? It's like a brine. So I guess it gets all the muck and the grime off, and it kills. We used to put salt on slugs years ago to kill them. And then we sit and watch them. This is when I was a child. I know better now. For all of you who are horrified, but we used to just sprinkle salt on slugs. If you were having trouble with slugs in your garden and they were eating everything, we'd put salt on, and they shrivel up, and they wriggle, and they shrivel, and they die nastily. So imagine that the salt water on your walls might do that with your bugs and all of the rest of it. I've never known it. I've heard it said that vinegar can do the same thing. And if you wipe your worktops, that's minor information. If you're having trouble with ants, and you just wipe your worktops or your shelves down sort of every week with a solution of vinegar, it'll keep the ants at bay. They won't go anywhere near. I really think that if you are concerned about bad spirits, then sage would work. Burning sage would work as a cleansing. But I think whatever you choose to use works. If you are having some issues, who is this? Sam, right? If you're having issues, Sam, please email us and explain the situation, and we'll send in our Ghostbusters to sort your place out. Don't you worry. We'll send in all that good energy, and you won't have to worry about it anymore. So email us, let us know what the issue is, and we'll send in our ghost-busting team. We don't actually have a human ghost-busting team except me, but we'll send them in. How about that? Al, do you have anything to say about that before we move on?
I'm always interested in the whole cleansing process, and you always say to use sage, and I've done it on a friend of mine's house, and You tell me the act of doing it really is just as important as using the sage, correct? Because you're believing.
Yes, I remember there was a time, Al, that you called me because you had a friend who was in some difficulties, who felt some sort of negative energy in the house, and I think I sort of talked you through what you needed to do and how you needed to go from room to room. But it's a very simple and a very basic process. But you have to be of the mindset also. It's not just a question of going out, buying a stick of sage and lighting it and sort of wafting the smoke around. You do have to be of the right mindset. So you have to put yourself in that place of calm, of sort of almost in a state of meditation, but not meditation. You have to raise your level of consciousness, and you have to connect with those outside universal forces just by being at one, by breathing deeply, and take the whole thing seriously. And at the same time, as you are burning the sage and as you are wafting the smoke around, which can be very, very cleansing, not just to buildings, but it can be very cleansing to the person who does it. It can be very cleansing to the people who are around when you're doing this. But as you're doing this, remember that you have to be mindful always of the intent, that you are getting rid of any negative energy. And you're basically sort of, let's say, I hate to use this word, but exorcising. You're sort of basically in your mind, keep it always in your mind, what your process is and the reason that you're doing this, you know, why you're doing this. Did you want to say anything else about that?
No, he did. It was effective though for this friend of mine.
Yeah.
Felt a lot better. Him and his wife felt a lot better afterwards. And I think their mindset, it helped them too, because then their energy became stronger. They were more aware that what their attitude was and what their energy was affected their environment around them too.
Yeah, I do. I think it's, you know, it's about getting everyone together and being mindful that we need to stay positive, that I hate to say this, our attitude is everything in these situations, and that we have to have a good and a positive attitude, and to be careful, you know, not to bring people who have a negative attitude into our lives, never mind into our homes. Carolyn, do you have another question?
Jason asks.
Good morning, Jason.
What do you find important in the way you live your life? What have the deceased taught you?
You know, I think the first thing that comes to mind is kindness and gentleness. And Grey Eagle has taught me absolutely that our world needs gentleness. I've always been a gentle child ever since I can remember. I've been a gentle kid. I was gentle with my dolls. I would talk to my dolls. I would make up plays with my dolls. I was in my own world as a child because I could make my own world safe for me. And my dolls, I'm sure, they were very important to me. And of course, my teddy, let's not forget my teddy, who was majorly important to me. Maybe I shall bring him out one day. In fact, Carolyn, would you like to go in my bedroom, on my sofa in the bedroom? I'll show you my teddy because I had him when I was 6 years old, which makes him over half a century old, way over half a century old, actually. So I've always had that innate kindness and gentleness. But of course, depending on your environment, dolls, thank you, look at this. Here's Teddy. Here's Teddy. He still works. He's filled with straw. Are you ready for this? Oh, it doesn't work. If you catch him in the right moment, he growls, but he doesn't. He's shy, yeah. Carolyn said he's shy. And here, you take it. I'm sitting with him. I'm sitting with my teddy on my knee. But I think that our environment either encourages or can discourage that. My environment should have actually discouraged my gentleness and my kindness. But I think that because I am an ultra sensitive person. I think what the spirit world has taught me, what I truly understand, is that I must be more of who I innately am. I'm not to be afraid of who you are, but to be more of the good that you are, to be more of the light that you are. Remember, our world needs gentleness. That's what Gregor has taught me. Let's have another question. Al.
Okay, so Roxana has a question.
Yes, good morning.
I've heard that not every person in the world has a guardian angel. Some of us have guides, some angels, depending on the kind of life you're leading. Is this true?
Oh, that is not my experience, actually. My experience is that every child that is born to this world comes with their angels, and every one of us who departs this world, every one of us who is of the light, let's clarify that, every one of us who is of the light, every one of us who is born of the light and who is part of God, every one of us has not just maybe one angel, but many angels sometimes, who lift us gently from this place that we've called home for however many years we've lived on this earth, and they carry us to the light, and they carry us into the light and towards God. So I think that we all have our angels, and I think that those angels also come to us from time to time in our lives as we live our lives. And they, they help us. Remember that our angels are messengers. They are God's messengers. They only do whatever God requires them to do. We cannot say to our angels, do this or do that or do the other. They'll only do it if God says absolutely that this is what they should be doing. So angels are messengers from God. Then we also, of course, all of us, we have our loved ones in the spirit world who are around us, our family, our friends who have passed before us, and they come to us and they help us and they guide us, or they try to. If we listen long enough and hard enough, they can hopefully have some success, but they try to guide and steer us. And then there are those of us who have spirit guides, but those of us who have spirit guides are very, very few and far between. Those people who have spirit guides, people like myself who work 100% of the time. This is not just a job for me. It's not a 9 to 5. I don't put in 9 to 5 hours. This is my life. This is who I am. And naturally, because I spend all of these, my life, and my life is dedicated to the work that I do, I need someone who is much wiser than I am and much more able to help me and to guide me and to steer me, which is why I need a spirit guide. But for those people who don't work like this, it's like imagining, I've always say this, it's like imagining that you're a first-year nurse and you're expecting the head of the hospital to walk around with you all the time and to be available to you whenever you need them. It's not going to happen, is it? So you need to use your common sense. If that first-year nurse progresses and becomes a doctor, she may get the head of hospital's attention much more than she did as a first-year nurse. But spirit guides are highly evolved. They're like the head of hospital. They're the highly evolved spiritual entities who, it would be dreadful to think that they were wasting their time with people walking around who don't even know that they're there half the time. And if they do know that they're there, don't take much notice of them anyway. So I want you to, it's a good question, but I'd like you to use your common sense when you're thinking about this. Please use your common sense. You're only going to have a spirit guide if you work in full time doing this work in a way that warrants this highly evolved spiritual entity to spend time with you and to teach you and to guide you in the work that you're doing. All right, let's have another question, Carolyn.
Joshua asks,
good morning, Joshua.
Does your spirit guide know your fate, and will you become a spirit guide?
Oh gosh, I hope not. I mean, I hope I don't become a spirit guide. Why do I hope that? Because I think my spirit guide, I can only speak about Gregor, but he has the most unbelievable patience, and he has so much knowledge, perhaps more than I think I'm capable of handling. You know, I'm just this little human being after all. What was the first part of the question? Yes, he does know. Yes, and yes, he does. And he tells me some things, and he doesn't tell me other things, because like everybody else, I'm here to learn and to grow, which means I have to have my own experiences. You know, there are people who say, well, you know, how come, you know, I mean, all of you know, a few years ago, I had someone who stole a lot of money from me, and how, well, she's supposed to be psychic, doesn't she know? Well, actually, no, I'm human just like everybody else. And there were lessons to be learned through that experience. I'm hoping that I learned them all, but I'm sure I'm not there yet. You know, just because we do this work, and because we have that higher power, we have a knowledge and a connection to that higher power, does not mean that our lives therefore will be smooth and easy. And you know, and as Gregor put it to me once, about a client of mine, if we were to smooth her path and leave no wrinkles, where would her learning, where would her growth be? So we need those wrinkles, we need those boulders to climb over, we need those things that are put in our way often, that teach us, and you know, they teach us something, they teach us how to be, and they're there for a good reason. So I have as many boulders, in fact more than a lot, not as many as others, but I'm not exempt from all the hardships of this life, just like everybody else who comes here. Al, do you have anything to say to that?
Yeah, just that you're living a human experience just as anyone else, right? You're connected in a different way, but living a human experience. A question from Armelia.
Amelia, good morning.
Yeah, and I actually have a follow-up question I thought of when you were talking about the Christmas ancestors coming. But her question is, I cannot feel the presence of my grandmother anymore. What does this mean?
It could mean a few things. It could mean that you're busier now with your life. It could be you're busier and you're happier in your life, and therefore she doesn't feel the need to be, you know, looking over your shoulder as much as she used to do. It could mean that you're so busy at work that you've forgotten to listen in the same way. There are lots of reasons why. It doesn't mean she's disappeared from your life, darling. It doesn't mean she's not there. It probably just means that you've grown up a little bit. There are other things going on in your life. You become involved with other things, and either she feels that you don't need her quite as much as you did, or it could be that you're so busy that you're not paying nearly as much attention as you should. But never fear, because she's right with you. Don't worry, you haven't lost her. What was your follow-up question, Al?
So my follow-up was, when you were talking about people coming back, ancestors coming back for Christmas, does the frequency of them coming back and the likelihood that they're celebrating Christmas dissipate over time, over generations and generations and generations? So your great 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 grandfather, would they be coming around for Christmas time, or are they off doing something else as time goes by?
We hope that they're off doing something else, don't we? Because if it's the great 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 great, everybody that he knew is over there with him, right? Or so old and deaf and blind that they wouldn't see him anyway if he were there. I think it depends, because I think I might have told this story before, but I had an occasion to a young man came to see me for a consultation, and I found out afterwards that he came to me because his girlfriend had been killed in a car crash, his fiance. They were buying a house together, they were doing the house up, they were renovating the house, and so on and so forth. And he'd also just been commissioned. He was I can't remember now what it was, in the Army or the Air Force or something. I can't remember exactly, but I have to go back and read The Eagle and the Rose, I think, because the story's in there. So I have to remind myself of the little details. But he'd just been promoted or something. And the only person that we had to come through from the spirit world was this lovely lady, older lady, wearing a long grey dress and a straw boat with a black band, and in her hand she kept waving a little book at me, and I couldn't see quite what the book was, but I felt that it was some sort of a religious book, a prayer book or something like that. So she told him all of these things about himself, about the renovations of the house. She told him about, you know, his promotion, how proud she was, and although she told him so many more things too. And so after a couple of hours, he was totally amazed at all of the stuff that she knew. He couldn't deny that, but he was so frustrated and upset and angry because he didn't know this woman. Why is this woman I don't know coming to talk to me when I want to talk to my girlfriend? And his girlfriend actually never came through to him that first time. It was only when he went home, and fortunately his parents were big spiritualists. So they recommended that he come and see me. I didn't know them, but they recommended he come and see me, and they said, take a tape recorder with you, which he did. So he taped it all. And of course, the first thing you hear me saying is I'm describing this woman, and her name is Martha. And his mother all of a sudden went pale, said, stop that, stop the recording. She ran upstairs. She came back down with a very, very, very old photograph album that he'd never seen before. And she kept it under the bed for whatever reason, and it was thick with dust. So they cleaned it off, and she's going through the album. And because he came back to tell me all of this, he said my heart was pounding, pounding, pounding in my chest because I knew what she was looking for. And there, at some point, she said, there, and she pointed to a photograph. She said, there you go. She said, that is my grandmother, which would be his great grandmother, I think, whatever. And that is my grandmother. She was a spiritualist. She always carried a little prayer book with her, and her name is Martha. So yes, generations can come, they can join in, they can let us know, they can be with us. And especially even if it's generations ago, if a child is born, prior to that child's birth, the family of that child will glimpse what this child is going to be and who this child is going to be. They'll know what kind of soul this child is going to have. And sometimes somebody from a generation back will just take an interest. And so you might find let's say your guardian angel, if you like, might be a great-great-grandfather or even a great-great-great who is participating in your life because they have chosen to help you or to guide you, or they see something special in you and they just want to be part of your life. I don't know if I answered that question, but
you did.
That's the best you get. Carolyn.
Dean says,
good morning. Yes.
When I had my consultation, my paternal grandmother, who was very close to me, didn't come through.
Oh dear.
I know I needed to hear certain things, but might she have been present but silent?
Yes. Yes, definitely. And oh gosh, does this mean you didn't have a good time when you had your consultation with me, Dean? It might have been that she knew that you knew she was there, and so she didn't necessarily feel the need. Or it could be that other people, I don't remember what we did in your consult, so you better explain a little bit. Maybe it was so crowded she didn't get a chance to push her way through. I don't know quite what it was, but certainly I'm sure she would be there, as would many of your family who perhaps wouldn't have had a chance to talk to you at that one particular time. Al, I'm waiting for the comments, Dean. Now, Al.
In essence, it's whoever they know who needs to come through, correct? So that's who's going to come through most prominently.
Sometimes it's you know, you have to remember, people have to remember that even though you know, the client comes to me for the consultation, right? You would think that my priority then would be for the client. Now, my concerns and my hope for the client are that we do a great job, but my priority is for those in the spirit world. And so I have to pay attention to who it is in the spirit world who needs or has something to say or needs to come through for whatever reason. And that's my priority.
Dean said to
yes.
Let you know, he laughed and he said, I was blown away in my consultation.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank goodness for that. Yes. Whose turn is it next for a question? I don't know. Al, do you have a question?
We have a question from Tinfoil Hatter. Their question is,
I love Tinfoil Hatter.
So this person says, okay,
Mel Gibson was the guy in that movie. I forgot what the movie is, where you see them all sitting on the sofa with their
Signs. Is it Signs?
Tinfoil hats on. It might have been Signs.
Yeah.
A very funny scene. But anyway, go ahead. Yes.
So this person says, okay, one serious question. What happens when spirit guides...
Hold on. How can you expect me to be serious
when you say one serious
with a name like that? But I will do my best. So let's go.
That's true. That's true. This person says, what happens when spirit guides are delinquent?
Excuse me? What?
What happens when spirit guides are delinquent?
Does she mean delinquent as in?
Not doing their jobs, I'm assuming?
Then she commented later and said, I know, only we can be delinquent and we're forgiven. We're only human.
See, there you go. She answered her own question. Bless you, darling. A true spirit guide certainly would never be delinquent. It would.
I guess, Rosemary, can they make mistakes? Do they do things that they maybe didn't approach the right way, or could have done better, or they're just all knowing and they do it perfectly every time?
Remember what I said earlier on, a spirit guide is a highly evolved spiritual entity, willing to share their wisdom with us. Now, we know that in the scheme of things, we're all children, no matter how old we are. We're all children, we're all learning, and we're all growing. Just the same as my 5-year-old grandson will listen to the information that you give to him, and some he'll take and some he won't, and some he doesn't understand even, even though you try to explain, he's too young to understand. So the mistakes come in our understanding. The mistakes come if we're not listening correctly. But a spirit guide, a true spirit guide, is a highly evolved spiritual entity who will only give you information that he's sure that you're going to grasp onto and that you are going to understand. And if you do puzzle it over, he'll say, I'm only talking about my spirit guide now, he'll say, you figure it out, meaning that I have the wits, that I have the intelligence, and if I think about it, I can figure it out. Or if it's an important piece of information that he knows I need help to figure out, he will give me that help. But a spirit guide isn't there to tell you what to do and what not to do. They're not there to order you about. They're there to guide you, to steer you. It's putting hand on my shoulder as I'm saying this to you. He's there to guide you. He's there to, and you can listen to him or not. It's your choice. I choose to listen to Grey Eagle, just tongue in cheek, most of the time. And there have been times over the years when I haven't listened to him. And I have to say that, there's no judgment on his part. He doesn't look at me with angry eyes or anything like that. The worst he's ever said to me is, if I keep asking and asking, going over something, you make my ear bleed. And then that just makes me feel really guilty. He's laughing at me as I'm saying this to you. But he's there to guide. He's not there to dictate. He's there to help. And in my case, certainly when I'm talking to people in the spirit world, or I have clients who come because they want to talk to someone in the spirit world, he's there to help and to guide me and to help them also, so that we can get the best experience possible for all of us.
Is he continuing to evolve and grow?
Always.
And learn. Yeah.
The answer comes before you've even asked it. Always. And we all are continuing to evolve and continuing to grow. I know that I'm a huge trial to him, and I probably was given to him for him to learn patience, and because he's had to have a huge amount with me, that's for sure, over the years. But we've been together forever, and so we have a great relationship. We really do have a very good and a very close relationship. All right, another question.
Ashley asks,
good morning, Ashley.
Have you ever lost a friend when they found out about your abilities? And if so, was it a flat out, or did you just drift apart?
Well, you know, we're using friends in the loose term now, aren't we? In the beginning, could you do me a little favor? Could you get the book that Julie sent to me, please? Yes. It's on the table. We're using the term friends loosely. When I first began this work, what happened was people that I would never have considered friends, and people I didn't even know, suddenly became, let's call them hangers on, because they were the kind of people who thought if they hung around me long enough, I'd give them a message or something. And then there were those people who I thought were friends who ran. Let me put it that way. They ditched me without a word, and I never heard from them again. You know, I mean, it is what it is. I'm very fortunate. You know, they say if you're lucky, you can count on the fingers of one hand your friends. And if you have more than 2 or 3 pure friends, true friends, then you're lucky. I mean, I've got 10 fingers, 8 fingers, 2 thumbs, and I need several more hands to count my friends, the true friends that I have made over the years. So I'm lucky. I'm just going to show you this because this was sent to me from Julie
Nicholson.
And she writes, "My darling Rosemary." Well, it was so sweet, because the only person I know who says my darling is me, who says my darling Reese and my darling daughter, my darling grandson. But Julie sent me this book. I've not read it yet, but it's about helping children who suffer with not being fears and concerns, and they're not able to relax, or they worry and what have you. And it's called The Land of When. Now, I don't know if you can see that. So Julie Nicholson sent it to me from Australia. If you want to know more about it, I don't know if you can get it on Amazon, The Land of When. I've not read it yet, so I'm going to read it. It only came last night, and I was involved with the cake. But when I've read it, I'm certain I'm going to give it to Reese, and apparently it's a book for children to help them to understand all the trials and tribulations of their life. So I'll talk about that next week and let you know what to think about it. But in the meantime, Julie, I know you watch the show sometimes, so thank you, darling, very, very much. Do we have another question?
We have Julia. Julia asks, can you connect still with family friends that have already reincarnated and not living in spirit in heaven?
Good morning, Julia. Well, see, this is a tricky one, because I have a different opinion of reincarnation than many people do. I'm not going to go into that because we have talked about it on this show a few times before. Suffice it to say, and I told this story before, but I'll briefly tell it again. When I was in Hong Kong, I had a man came to see me, and I do believe he was Muslim, or whatever he was. He had they believe Muslim, or maybe not, I can't remember anyway. But his faith, his religion, his way of life was that the moment you die, you're immediately reincarnated, whether it's to become a beetle, a frog, a boy, a girl, whatever it is, you're immediately reincarnated. And he came, he sat down next to me, and I immediately saw his father standing next to him. His father had died probably 10 or so years before. So in his religious belief, his father well, should not have even been in existence, but he was there. He gave lots of information and lots of evidence that it really was his father. And I know this young man went off a little bit confused, because how can he be reincarnated but yet still very much alive, living in that next world? So my ideas of reincarnation are, we don't all of us necessarily choose to reincarnate. We can choose to do other things, and you know, there are, let's be clear, this earth of ours is the size of a grain of rice or even a grain of sand compared to the universe and the many universes that are out there. So let's not suppose that with the only option, this earth is the only option that we have once we die and we move on and we decide to travel or whatever it is we decide to do. You know, it's a way bigger world, a way bigger universe than we think it is. So let's not get ourselves stuck in a box with that narrow way of thinking. Al?
Yeah. We're close to time.
Were you sleeping?
No.
Actually napping.
I think it's Carolyn's turn to ask. That's why you should probably
okay. All right, Carolyn.
What does life after death look like for you? Can you describe that? That was from Timothy. Sorry.
Timothy, good morning. What does life after death look like to me? Well, I'm lucky because I have traveled to the other side. I've seen glimpses. Of course, I've not seen all of it by any means, but I've caught glimpses, and what I've caught glimpses of looks incredible. It looks amazing. It looks immense. It looks exciting. There's lots of things to do, lots of places to explore, and also I think lots of things to learn. I think there's great wisdom there. When I smile when I think of the light and the glory and the joy that is, you know, is there for us, if that's what we want, if we want to go into the light. And so I'm not too excited. I don't want to get there in a hurry, but you know, people often ask me, are you afraid to die? And the truth of the matter is, I'll let you know when it happens. I think my fear, and I've always said this, my fear is not so much about what I'm going to encounter once I leave this earth. My biggest fear will be leaving my daughter and my grandson. How will they cope? How will they manage without me? And I know I can hear people saying, well, according to you, they won't have to. Well, actually, they will have to in a physical sense. My daughter calls me. I've spoken to her twice this morning already. She calls me and I call her. We speak at least 3 or 4 times every day. There are very rare occasions when we don't talk at all, but it's only because either she's busy or she's away or I'm away. I worry for them. My biggest fear is for them. How will they manage without me? Because we're such an integral part of each other's lives. Al, a question.
We have no more questions. We're close to time.
Okay.
So it's your call, of course.
Let me just say that we will be back, Al and I, tomorrow night, 6 o'clock my time, 4 o'clock Colorado time, right, Al?
Correct. Yep.
We have a young lady, well, not quite young, but she's not old either when I think about it. We have a guest on tomorrow. If you want to be a guest on Everything is Attitude show, please, you know, let us know. Al, could you put that email out there for us? Would you like to give it to us?
Yeah, I don't think I can type it in the chat, but it's info@everythingisattitude.com. Carolyn may be able to do it, but it won't let me do it from the YouTube channel.
Info@everythingisattitude.com. And if you would like to talk to us on the show, if you've got an issue that you would like help with, because it's all about recipes for life, and Al and I, between us, we give you not just perhaps solutions, but how you can use the tools, different tools that we give you to help you to solve the issues that you have, maybe you've got a great attitude in most things, as Al's sister had last week, but you know, in one area you have an awful attitude, you just can't get yourself together with it. You know, you're really positive in many ways, but you can't work out how to diet or something, or how to deal with your husband or your kid or your something or another that's going on in your life. So if you want to be a guest on the show, you know, you can we can tap you in. Al does all of that technological stuff. So you can email us either rosemary@rosemaryaLtea.com and let us know, or info@everythingisattitude.com. Is that right, Al?
Correct. And Carolyn put it in the chat as well. Thank you, Carolyn.
Brilliant. So let us know if you want to join us. Again, it's live, a live chat, and it's lots of fun. You can go to YouTube, or you can go to Facebook and my Facebook, or to find these chats, to watch them. So if you want to participate in that, feel free. Remember, I asked you at the beginning, very beginning, subscribe. Please subscribe. We will be doing all sorts of things that in the future, that if you are a subscriber, you can participate in, and if you're not a subscriber, then you can't participate. It's as simple as that. But I'd love to have your recipes, and maybe we can have a, you know, a winner. We'll be, you know, Al and I can test out these recipes. Maybe I'll just throw one to Carolyn and say, can you cook that for me and tell me how it turns out? Well, you never know. We can have a little competition to see which recipe we like, and if we find a real winner, as my grandson, for some reason or another, he's got this in his head, 5 years old, it's at school. It's a winner. We shall say it's a winner, and he'll love to say that. You know, we can share the recipe with all of you on this YouTube channel. Don't forget to go to my Rosemary in the Kitchen to have a look for that Christmas cake. And if you want the recipe for any of those things that you see, or anything that we talk about that I'm cooking, if you email us, rosemary@rosemaryaLtea.com, we'd be happy to send you the recipe. The book is so close, so close. I'm so excited. All right, so another project, bit the dust, is finished. So, all right, so from myself and from Grey Eagle, I'd like to thank Al. Thank you very much, darling, for participating this morning. Thank you to Carolyn. Thank you to my puppy. Hasn't he been good? I brought out the little baby gate that I put him behind, and I think it sort of was the warning. I think he took one look at the baby gate and thought, I better behave myself today. He's just done nothing but sleep the whole morning, which is great. And from Grey Eagle, of course, and also from myself, until we see you again next week. Actually, some of you will see tomorrow night. Please, 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 please have a very, very, I should be finding the little arrow. There it is. Have a very, very, very blessed day. And click.